You know, it's not how it happens. It doesn't happen in late night in the midnight hour in the park, and that's not what's going on. Most of them are date related. And she went on a date thinking this dude was one way, and turns out the dude was a totally different. He was an asshole, and so and
And
I
some
get
of them,
and I get the gray area of it's her word against his. I get that, but at the same time,
But that's the hardest thing to get over, man. Is
it's so hard, bro.
That he say, she say. It's how do you determine who tell the truth, who didn't? I mean, you got to have a lot to say one person over the other.
And I'm telling you, man, like you know what? Here's the reality, and some of us may still feel this way. Them people, them ladies that all accuse Cosby. Most people don't believe them. They don't believe they were raped. Most people believe what were y'all doing up there that late at night? I've thought about it. I'm like, why are y'all up there at 3 o'clock in the morning? And you know he's a married man. Like I've had those thoughts. It's a tricky scenario, man. It's an unfortunate one because the celebrity blind, like when it first started with the Cosby thing, I was just like Pastor Dave. When the first they lying, they all lying. And then when it got up to like 14, 15, I was like, well, he probably only like maybe like 5 of them, like maybe. And then when it got up to like 72, you was like, or whatever the number ended up being, you're like, God, dog, Dr. Cosby, you out here in these streets just plugging away, huh?
But in your back of your mind, you started thinking too, come on now, ain't no way in hell it's gonna be that many. Somebody got to be. I mean, you had that in the back of your head as well because the number kept getting.
Well, right. The number sounds so ridiculous because you say, how does one man rape so many women?
And nobody says nothing. Nobody comes. You start putting doubt into your own self because of who that person was and what you thought of that person. Like the Jello man can't be doing that. Not pudding.
Would you be shocked if tomorrow a story came out that TD Jakes was a serial rapist? I'd be stunned. I'd be like, damn, TD Jakes? It gives a new minute. Get ready.
You would never be able to get 10 people to believe it.
So we generally have profiles of what we believe in our mind of what a rapist looks like, of what a murderer looks like.
Right.
We generally form these opinions.
And they typically don't have a 3-piece suit on and preach in the pulpit.
Right.
Yet, let me tell you something. This is full disclosure, like Mama Noise used to say. Or not used to, like she's gone away forever. Like she says, I met Eddie Long personally. I met him. I shook his hand. Sat at a dinner table with him. Aside from that tight ass shirt he had on, I thought he was an okay dude. I was like, he's fine. I mean, I didn't like him. I didn't walk away with a good impression of him because I was like, damn, that shirt's too tight. And I don't know, it was just something about, how you just feel something about a person and you're like, he seems sneaky. But I'm not gonna put my mouth on the man of God. I'm not gonna say, hey, he's a sneaky ass nigga. But the street in me was like, I don't trust this nigga. But the preacher in me was giving him a pass. The street in me was like, he'll never be around me and mine. And then it turned out I was right. I'm just saying, we give passes to people based on what? Like, why are we willing to give pass? Like, people didn't leave New Birth when the allegations came out.
You do it because of their status, because where you see them in the hierarchy.
And the more charisma you have, the less likely people are to believe bad of you.
So as long as I keep my charisma up, I'm prime. I'm conviction free, or I'm accusation free.
I mean, look at the number of people that are willing to forgive pastors with charisma.
Yeah.
It's so many minute things that we start factoring in immediately. Like, man, how damaging is this going to be? Who's going to be hurt the most if these accusations are not true? And then you start saying, well, why would they got so much to lose? Why would they even do something like that? It doesn't make sense. Just like a minute ago, and this guy's a handsome fella. He don't have to go out and be doing that stuff. Why would he do that? So we just start throwing all these little minute things in and just instantly start building a case on how it could be inaccurate more so than how the accusations could be accurate.
First of all, I want to give Tara all the credit she deserves because she shared some amazing and very transparent things in the chat. She mentioned that she is a victim herself. I think she mentioned that she was a victim herself. I thought I saw that in the chat. Did I miss that, guys?
I wasn't in the chat, so I don't know.
That is, you know what? And I'm proud of you.
We've been admonished. We don't pay attention to the chat anymore.
Oh, my brothers, they just doing the right thing. I thought she said, yes, as an assault victim, I can tell you certain words that trigger me, and I know it causes hate. So she she has come forward to say that. And then she brought something else that was very interesting here. She said, I have a close friend, and she is not to be left alone with anyone's man. She's going to always be my friend, but am I going to leave her alone with my man? Hell no. She doesn't get a pad. She is who she is, and I accept that. Is she the friend in quotation marks, and women like that part of the problem? How could Dr. Cosby control himself? Those women threw themselves at him. Why were they in his room at 3 o'clock in the morning? It wasn't rape. It was consensual.
I can't say they're the problem because the guy still has to do his dirt. The guy still has to control what he's doing and how he's doing it, regardless of the situation, regardless of where it's at. Still the guy.
It's a tricky situation because if you don't this, and those of us that subscribe to the way of the Lord. I
gotta go. Damn.
You don't have to go. You can stay there. The problem with this is that if you choose to have premarital sex, which we've all chosen, then this is the unfortunate area that you find yourself in, because if this isn't, and again, I've said this on the show, and y'all tried to laugh me off the show, but I'm just being honest. If you don't have a way to verify the consensuality of this sexual relationship in 2022, you are open for interpretation. You open for interpretation. Once that door closes and locks, all bets are off. How everybody comes out this room. There's a funny video that Big Ja does. Shout out to Big Ja, content creator. He does a video where he goes over to the girl's house and he gets up from having sex with her from the previous night. And she's like, okay, well, you got to go. And he's like, well, don't you want my number? And she's like, yeah, whatever. Give it to me. And he's like, okay. And then he goes in the other room. I may be mixing videos up, but the video, he goes in the other room thinking that he killed it. And she's on the phone talking Spanish. And she's like, nigga, this nigga was trash. But in his mind, he destroyed it. He was the man. He made her climb the walls in his mind. But it's two different interpretations of the same event. And that's what I'm saying. We all walk away from the events with separate interpretations sometimes. And then depending on how that interpretation gets pushed forward, it could be whatever somebody says it is. And you are guilty until proven innocent, regardless of the offense, whether it's as innocent as just a bad sexual experience or as egregious as rape. You are guilty until proven innocent. And that's what makes this whole thing so hard to deal with, because it's like, but I don't want to not hear the victim's pain. I don't want to be like the girl said, we all out here talking about it and victim shaming and this, that, and the other because we refuse to hear it because we want to give everybody. Or is that wrong? Let me ask that question. Is it wrong to give everybody in those sketchy areas of what this is that wrong to not give the man a fair shake? Or should we automatically believe what the woman says in this particular situation?
I think you can't automatically believe because there's so many other false allegations that came out. So it's hard for you to say you're automatically going to believe. And I think the false allegations is what's hurting the victims. All the ones who are doing it falsely are taken away from the people who it's really happening to.
Well, they're all allegations until proven. Right or wrong, they're all allegations. And the problem with allegations is we know people lie. For whatever reason. And that's a sad place for a woman to be, to have to try to, well, she should have to prove it because it's an allegation that could potentially destroy somebody's life. But we generally look at it with suspect because we don't want to believe that type evil really exists, even though we know rape happens all the time. Right. It's just hard to believe that a man would force himself upon a woman. I mean, I do it all the time in my bedroom, but I mean, that's my bedroom.
That goes back to what Tara said, that husbands rape wives.
Yeah, I take it all the time, Tara. I damn sure do. She ain't as frequent as I like.
He apologized after the fact.
Yeah.
Apologize for what?
Noise media and entertainment does not validate or advocate rape in any kind, especially, and nor do we not take it seriously. We take it very seriously here. Noise
media. Yeah, we take it seriously.
That's just want to say that. These are just jokes.
That's right. That's right.
Our pastor Dave Chappelle. What do you want from us?
The church is flying in for a reason.
I'm just saying it can get sketchy. Is what we're trying to say. There's a statement I had in my head just a minute ago, and it was a really good one. And I lost it because of that joke you just told. So I'm about to think about it again.
You're getting older, young man. You're getting older.
I am. That's why I got to keep this pad over so I can write it down.
And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Hold on. Yeah, just hold on.
I got one word for you, sir. I'm gonna fight this thing. It's called ginseng.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, that's what we do. That's what old ladies are doing.
So while I'm thinking of this thing, just like the Facebook football player, I said Facebook football player from Houston, that's Deshaun Watson. All of those allegations, nobody is no court is convicting him right now. And in fact, it looks like they're going to kind of leave the whole thing alone and just leave it to civil suits. So are these victims or opportunists?
Once again, I mean,
this is tough, man.
There's got to be some victim in there somewhere because there's too many cases.
Yeah, Ron, but they were selling ass.
They were selling.
We don't know. Well, hold on. We don't know that they were selling ass.
Wait now.
We don't know that they were selling ass. We don't know that.
They were selling massages. They were
selling massages.
Pay to work. It's a legit business.
And those that are very successful, like the owner of the New England Patriots, they don't go to just any old massage parlor. They go to the one where they know they can get the full service.
Okay, so is that a victim or an opportunist? Is that a victim or this is bad business transaction?
You know, it's a blurred line.
Very blurred.
Because you have people that do stuff as an actual profession, like real masseuses that give massages that actually give a massage, and you have the ones that do it as a profession and do the extracurricular. So it's a blurred line because you're saying, oh, I did this and all I was expected to do was give the massage. But then you got the ones like we had on the show. We showed the video on the show about the girl that was like, now look, it starts out as a massage. But she like, you know, he paid for the extracurricular.
Okay, but if he paid for it, is she a victim or an opportunist? And if you pay for it and you agree upon the price, that doesn't sound like a victim to me.
It's a classic example of what Unc always says. Two things can be true.
So what does that mean to you, Al?
That means that I was seeking an opportunity to improve my financial situation by taking on a little extra something, and it went too far.
Mm.
You know that happy ending comes with a little extra bonus pay.
Sexual harassment is typically placed in the category of harassment with the use of power over the individual that is being harassed. So in some form or fashion, you have exuded some measure of power, or you have control over that person's whatever. So if you add a financial transaction in, or I'm just throwing out a scenario. If you go to a massage parlor and you usually make $100 per massage, and the guy is Robert Kraft, and he says, listen, I know you normally get $100, but I'm Robert Kraft, and here's $1,000 if you just do this for me. Is that a victim because he exuded power and over her, or is that someone saying, well, I can make this month's rent now because I see an opportunity?
Well, like Al said, it can be both. He put his power out there. That person began to consent, but then they changed their mind, and he doesn't. But if they tell you to stop and you continue, it's where the line gets blurred, man. It's where it changes from consensual to assault.
Well, right. If they say stop
or no,
and you don't stop,
alone,
and power says, I paid for this.
Well, you pay for a lot of stuff. Don't mean you're gonna continue to get everything that you asked for.
But when your head gets swole up, well,
it goes back to
power. The power that you just like. In other words, I'm Robert Kraft, and I paid for this. So because I am who I am, because of the influence I am, because of the money all of that power means what I get what I pay for.
But power doesn't absolve you of doing something that you shouldn't. And with that power, you should be smart enough to say, you're right. I'm not gonna be a narcissist. I'm gonna say you're right. I'm gonna stop and go, and you could get
my money back.
Get my money back. But he took that power to his head and said, "No, F this. I'm Robert freaking Kraft."
Right.
So when you go into a
here it comes.
McDonald's,
fancy restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And all them stars and diamonds or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
the reason why you are paying so much for the food, because it's still a steak. It's still a piece of shrimp. I mean, but the reason why you pay so much for the food is the attention and service that you get.
Okay.
So people will go an extra mile to give you quality of service when you are paying, or when you have the ability to pay, or when you have the ability to tip. I'm gonna go a little bit farther than I normally would go with my service, because you have the ability to take care of me. Now, can I misconstrue all of that attention you giving me? All that smiling you giving me while you rubbing on me? Can I misunderstand that? Sure I can. But then you may not say no, because now you feel like you're in a position where you have to follow through.
Right.
It is a very blurred line situation.
Very blurred line.
Here's the reason we said both things can be true at the same time.
Listen, you know, I remember a long time ago in my early 20s, I went out on a date with this guy. And when I went on a date with him, we riding down the street, and I said, I need you to take me home. And he's like, shh, I ain't taking you home. I said, okay. I asked you, pick me up at my house. I asked you to take me home, and now you're talking about what you're not going to do. Okay. So I jumped out of the car while I was still rolling. Because I didn't know what his I ain't taking you home means. Does that mean you're going to take me somewhere and harm me? Does that mean, you know, you're going to cross all these other lines and do some other stuff that I didn't, you know, I thought we was going on a date. When you talking about what you're not going to do, I felt like I had to, you know, look out for my life. Now, I know you probably say, you should just tell him to just stop the car. But I didn't know what was going to happen.
Did you ever see the guy again?
Oh, I seen his punk. I mean, I seen him. Then, you know, it's all how you do.
And that was the first thing that should have made you know that something was wrong with him. Because anytime you laugh with your tongue out like that,
yeah,
then that nigga ain't right. That nigga ain't right.
I'm just saying that sometimes you get put in a situation where, because see, you know, I think Tara said it earlier in the comments in the chat earlier. She said, you know, it starts at home. Well, you know, my grandmama and them used to say was, what, like you said, what was you doing there? Why was you out that time of night? What was you doing with him? What, you know, why was you dressed like that? What, maybe and find a way to make it the woman's fault. It was never the guy's fault. Your skirt was too short. You showed too much cleavage. You did this. You did that. Did you cross your legs? Did you make sure you was covered up? Did you make what? I wore clothes.
It's easier to find fault in the victim than it is to find it in the person that did the crime.
Let me ask y'all a question. Have y'all ever been in an environment, a club, a party, college, a house party, whatever, and you saw someone, a female, in trouble, and you responded to that trouble?
Yes.
Or a family member in trouble, and you responded to that trouble?
Yeah.
What made you respond?
Because I didn't feel comfortable. I felt uncomfortable. Like, I feel like I would be uncomfortable in that situation. So if this person ain't gonna speak up for themselves, matter of fact, I was frequent about that. I was frequent where anytime my soror or a sister or one of the girls on my floor in my dorm was in a situation or something like that, I don't know why I felt instinctive like that, but I would be like, you all right? You good? Is he? Because see, I didn't have a problem addressing the guy. Where she would be like, quit. And I'll be like, you all right? Because if is he acting out? Is he cutting up? Then it would be, no, he just, No, I had no problem speaking up.
Yeah, you gotta be very careful with that. I mean, I'm the same way. Right is right, wrong is wrong. You see somebody getting done wrong, you should say something about it, especially a guy on a female. But you gotta be careful because it could go wrong and go south on you.
It could, but I was willing to take that risk because some people don't know how to. Some people don't know how to speak up for themselves. Some people weren't taught to speak up for themselves. So they like, in other words, I'm just so glad he's paying attention to me. Bump that. If this dude is pulling up your clothes, trying to put his hand down your pants and all this other type of stuff, and you're saying you don't want that, you don't have to take that.
No, you don't. And that's the reason why I step up. I mean, I ain't gonna see nobody get done like that, period. It just, it's a slippery slope. You gotta be careful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just 2-3 weeks ago, young man, actually, we know Rod, who went to Moorhead. It was a friend of his who was coming out of a convenience store. Woman and her husband were having an argument. He tried to intervene on behalf of the female whom he did not know at all. And the husband took the life of him and his now deceased wife. So you have to, huh?
Yeah, he killed both of them.
He killed both of them.
Yeah.
Did you say he killed Rod?
No.
Oh, I thought you was like,
I said, we know Rod. This gentleman was a friend of Rod.
Friend of Rod. Okay. I was like, wait, Rod?
No.
Rod? Okay,
But I've actually seen the females turn on the guy that came over and helped.
Yeah.
I've seen that too.
You have to really weigh the consequences. And I know, we all want to be a knight in shining armor. And I've done it. I've left my job to go rescue a female that was endangered with her boyfriend, but you have to really weigh the consequences and ask yourself, is this where I want my last stand to be? Because it could very well be.
Cuz is shaking his head.
And you SOBs call me defenders of the earth. And I ain't never jumped in nobody's situation. And I won't ever do it. You crazy as hell.
Well, that is probably true because I have jumped in on some situations.
Yeah, same guy that won't give change to the guy on the side of the road. So we understand.
Wow.
I won't do that. Now, what I will do is call the police up. Security.
Top flight.
What we ain't gonna do is jump in the middle of nobody's situation. I listen.
So what does it mean? Okay, so to Cuz's point, what does it mean to hear the victim? I've already identified the flaw in Talk That Tuesday because we may not get to the other topic at all.
That's facts.
You can get to it. You just got to cut the question off. It's okay.
You got to cut this off at some point.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to hear the victim then? Does it mean what Cuz said? Like they take the L of the rape, but you call the police on their behalf and maybe help them through the other side of it, or does it mean to stop them before it ever happens?
Call the police.
It's a tricky thing.
Call the police sometime, man. Like you walking by somebody and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Usually, people call the police. They don't stay around.
Some people don't know that they are a victim. They think it's love. They like, you don't understand. He just have a hard time communicating.
Well, you said a mouthful just then.
They don't know any different. What they're experiencing could be right for all they know.
I've literally had couples tell me the toxicity in their relationship, and I told, I'm not an advocate of divorce, but I told one of the couples, y'all need to separate. This is never gonna work. If you can't not put your hands on her, this is not gonna work. They never separate.
But here's the thing.
I don't understand it.
Here's the thing. If you've never had a porterhouse, if you've never had a T-bone, if you've never had a ribeye, your ass is gonna think round steak is the best steak on the face of the earth.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. You know what's peculiar about this is that I remember going to or I think we had as a special guest a person from a women's shelter or a counselor. A counselor came to as a speaker, and the counselor explained rape. There was a lot of people that did not understand what it is and were kind of dumbfounded. And I was like, okay, like the one thing that dumbfounded me was when you tickle somebody, you're tickling them and they've told you to stop. And they keep tickling you. And then you change your stop to, you first said no, and then they keep doing that, like to get you to change your mind.
Mama knows you hurting my foreplay there. You hurting my foreplay. Now I can't go tickle my wife no more.
And I tickle my daughter all the time and my wife, and they both tell me to stop, but I keep going.
But see, I didn't know that was a thing. They was like,
let me. Oh man, we're about to step in it now. I should have cut this off a long time ago.
This is the last one. This is it. After this,
I have heard those same speeches by those advocates, rape advocates, and I'm gonna tell you something. This is my humble opinion. Their definition of that is a very tricky definition because their definition to me lacks interpretation of intent, and that I don't know why you would not consider that to just blanketly say here. Oh man, I'm about to step in it. Here's what makes this tough. When you say no means no and you blanketly say it that way, it removes the opportunity for innocent intent to be considered in the act itself. So to your scenario, Mama Noise, if I'm tickling my daughter and she's giggling and laughing and she says, "Stop, Daddy, oh, stop, Daddy, stop." She doesn't mean stop in the sense of I'm hurting her or I'm violating her. She just can't handle the level of tickling and laughing, and it's okay. That part matters because if we remove and therein lies part of the problem. Tara hit it right on the head. Their interpretation makes all the parties responsible for their act, which is true and not true. And this is what I mean by not true. If I translate that over to consensual sex, then that means at any point that I hear a no, even if the no is not an actual no, I've still violated based on that that rule that is being
that no means no,
right? And it's oh man,
well, look at this. If a person they've given you permission at some point because draws is down and is moving forward, right? Ain't nobody said nothing. But if the person's no goes from no, is it still no? Is it go from, it's full speed ahead, then all of a sudden, stop it, stop.
And by the way, if I've reached the point during the sexual act where you've said to me no, but we've already penetrated, or we've already done this, or we've already done that, and you now say no, at the point of the no, is that where the rape occurred?
Slippery slope.
That's all I'm saying. This is woo.
Listen, I like some of what Tara is saying. Not all that BS, but some of it is good. Listen, when we interact with our daughters and play with our daughters, and I hope men have done that or do that. And they say stop, I know. We keep going. And it's in part because we're playing. I have to tell my daughter stop 10 times when she's wrestling with her daddy, when she's on top of her daddy's head and beating me down, and I can't breathe, and I have to finally say, get your ass off of me. I mean, we're having a good time. We're playing. But are we teaching them that no is not no? I mean,
it means you ain't giving the right.
That's a valid point.
Well, I mean, you're teaching them based on the situation too.
Yeah,
there's a big difference between playing and.
I don't know if we always know how not to transfer the circumstances in these situations, Ron. That's the challenge of it, man. It's like, at what point, man? Oh man, this is rough. So we have created this problem. Like we really have.
Because like if you say it's a no,
go ahead.
If it's a no, then if we teach our children, it all depends on what you're working with. If I'm saying to their father, if he said, Kenyatta, absolutely not, and then I say, well, let me see if I can talk to him. Well, now they're saying, well, no, don't mean no. It means it depends.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If something you want, and then you can talk me into it. Ugh. Oh man, why'd you introduce that part? What
are we talking about?
Part? Okay, so if I talk you into it, do I go by the first no or the second yes?
I mean,
oh man,
or is it a combination of both, and it's just a maybe? I mean,
but
you teach your kids. You teach your kids
no, and you can go back. Go ahead, Ron.
No. So you teach your kids the difference between what is play, because you tell them, hey, we're playing around, and y'all joke around about the nose and the stop. I mean, they know it from play, but you also are teaching them what is right and what is wrong. If somebody does X to you and it doesn't feel right, you're teaching them that's a no, and that's where you got to defend yourself. You got to get away. So you're teaching them both. So they shouldn't be getting confused based on how you're raising them and what you're teaching them.
I think if I had a son, and because I want you to jump back in there, I think I would teach him whatever no you hear, get the hell out the room.
Run, Forrest.
I think that's what I would teach him.
Okay, so I like that thought, but I actually like or honor the fact that my daughter doesn't take no.
But there's a difference between no and stop, though. We saying no. No and stop is two different things, though.
Well, okay. I get that.
I don't want you to pay I ain't paying your car payment. If me saying I ain't paying your car payment, the same as saying stop.
Daddy, can I go? No. She's never going to take that first no. She's going to come back. She's going to keep trying. I believe that bullheadedness, to a degree, is useful in life. You don't take no, or you don't take rejection.
I get that.
So that's a delicate balance too.
It is. Oh my, this is a tricky.
That's that slippery slope.
Do we want generations and generations of men who won't take no for an answer under any circumstance, or do we want a culture that understands clearly the boundaries? And maybe that's part of the problem, man. Maybe these boundaries just have not been defined to a place where victims have a place or a platform to where they can't say I've been victimized, because we've left all this up for interpretation. I don't know what a no is. I don't. It was consensual. It was this. It was that. I'd love to hear the cases as they were presented. Were these consensual dating situations? Did he end up in a room with these ladies? I heard some stuff, but I couldn't confirm all of it. But I'm just gonna give you what I've heard. That he presented himself as a photographer, and as that photographer, he presented himself as being able to do X, Y, and Z and models and blah blah blah. Next thing you know, he was raping these women. But now the age of the women says more than just consensual sex. It says that's pedophilia. You're a rapist and a pedophile.
You're talking about a guy who was messing with 16-year-olds. I mean, they're
right. That's a whole different thing to me.
Right. They're still learning. You know, they're still. I mean, he's still young. I mean, he's still learning. They're still wet behind her. I mean, so it goes a long way, man.
But you know,
like you said, he was so charismatic. It goes back to our charismatic statement.
Mm-hmm.
He was charismatic enough that he was talking to the jury to make them say, "This is not a guy that this would ever happen to."
Right.
He has too many opportunities.
Woo.
You know what's really scary is when I think about this guy. Is I remember as a young woman in my late teens, there was this guy on like one of them streets over there by my grandmother's house. I don't know if it was, I knew what street it was, but I don't remember the name. Anyway, so he was a police officer. But in his basement, he had a photography studio.
Yeah, that's the first strike right there.
And he was like, "You look like a model. Don't you want to, come over and let me take your picture?" Like, come over to your house and let you take my picture. But I have a studio. And see, that right there is like a hook in the fish's mouth, a bait. Because even on a lot of these shows I watch, a lot of my CSI shows, all these other FBI shows and stuff, it's always some really young girl that's a teen that ends up being roped in or, baited in with fame or modeling or, I just want to take your picture. He thinks my looks are good enough to be a model, to take pictures of. And that says, low self-esteem. It says, we're starving for some type of validation, attention. And that's really scary because a whole lot of these girls don't get a chance to come back and tell the tale of, the guy really didn't care nothing for me. It was just bait to get me in and do me some type of harm.
Yeah. Whew. Lot to unpack there. We just got a few minutes left. The second story is not as big, so that's why we started. I mean, the first story is not as big, that's why we started with the second story. It's real simple that we talked about a little bit yesterday. I Am Athlete brought back brought Colin Kaepernick on the show, on the podcast, and was like, "Hey man, tell us where you are. Tell us your story from your mouth. Stop using everybody else to tell your story." And so Colin Kaepernick said, "I want to play. No team up. Only one team has reached out to me. That was the Seattle Seahawks, and that was a long time ago. And back then they said, you're a starting quarterback, and we have a starting quarterback, so we don't need you. But now they don't have a starting quarterback, and they need somebody.
Was that the equivalent of telling somebody they're overqualified?
They're overqualified for the position, yes.
Which in NFL is stupid because every NFL team wants 2 starting quarterbacks.
You would think you wanted, a good quality
Especially
backup.
if you can afford them.
If you don't have a starting quarterback as a backup, then why the hell do you have a backup quarterback?
Right. So it brings up this question because he said, I'm willing to do anything, even if it means playing the backup role. Which I will say that kind of surprised me to hear him say that, because I was kind of under the impression that a backup role was not something that he would be interested in. But I guess time has caused him to soften that stance a little bit.
Kind of like women that say they want tall, dark, and handsome. As time passes, they just want that nigga to be alive.
Right. If he has a pulse,
and at least one good leg.
Kaepernick started out as a backup.
Right. So,
well, what is that? Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
There you go.
If you ain't got a man, you fond of whatever comes along.
So I wrote the question a certain way because it's interesting to me. He said, they asked, Brandon Marshall said, let's play devil's advocate. I'm an owner. What would make me think that you wouldn't be a distraction on my team? And so he lauded, well, I've never been a distraction on a team before. My coach Chip Kelly said I wasn't a distraction. My coach Jim Harbaugh said I wasn't a distraction. No teammate has ever said I was a distraction. So why would you think that I was a distraction, right? Which I have a feeling about that, but I'll share that in a minute. But then I go back to something that Ron and I talked about offline. Ron and I and Alan talked about offline. I'm bringing you into the conversation because he has a whole show on Netflix, Colin in Black and White. And I want to say episode 2 or 3, he proceeds to call the NFL owners slave owners and say that it's a slave mentality and blah, 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 blah. And he goes pretty hardcore against the NFL. And now he's saying, I want a second chance in this league. So I wanted to ask you gentlemen, and I'm sure we're going to get into this in some measure in the 5 tomorrow, but I just want, I respect the guys here on this panel as well and your opinions. Does this guy, I hate to say it that way, but does Colin deserve a second chance in the NFL?
I think everybody in every situation deserves at least one opportunity to redeem themselves, be it in the NFL, be it in a relationship. I think everyone should be afforded at least one opportunity to right a perceived wrong or to redeem an actual wrong. That's just me.
Does he have to walk back those comments for owners to feel comfortable giving him a shot?
Nothing against the team I'm about to say. The Dallas Cowboys give more opportunities to people on a football team than probably any team I know of.
That's true.
And if all those guys can be redeemed and given opportunity for what they've done,
that's
how the hell can call it Kaepernick? Well, yeah.
Other teams give
they do
just as many chances.
But how do you not get Colin another opportunity, regardless of what he said?
No, hold on. The only difference is them Cowboys is America's team, and we get more.
That's not this show. That's a different show. It's a different show.
But I like where you're going with that, Jay. I like
one that I will never produce.
He's 100% accurate. So
he is off. Like he's wrong with 2 left shoes.
But to say he can't get another opportunity, I mean,
you're using
and I do not think that opportunity should be contingent on an apology.
No, because technically, what did he do wrong?
Well, he didn't do anything wrong in the sense of what is right and wrong. in their mind, the thing that I struggle with him coming back, sounds terrible, but it's the truth. You calling people slave owners, bro. And I'm not saying you're wrong, because I think that, in many ways, there's very much a plantation slave mentality when it relates to the NFL. Now, does that make us all toxic because we watch it religiously and play fantasy football? Possibly. But at the same time, how do you do that?
But he's never
wore cotton garments.
Yeah.
So
They had a uniform, but again, he's never said nothing that nobody else has not already said. He's not the first person to ever say that.
But he is the first person that's ever sued for it and won.
But the thing is, what he is saying is, I deserve the right to play football. I don't deserve the right to be. I'm not asking for the NFL to agree with me. I'm not asking for the owners to apologize, or I deserve the right to play football, and because for that, I deserve a second chance.
All right, cuz, jump in there.
I struggle with the slave reference. I understand the ownership part and most of the players on the team being black and the mentality of you owning me and watching me perform for you. I get that reference, but I disagree with it. Slavery was an evil thing. And how we want to link the two, ownership of a team and slavery, I don't go that far. You're well paid, you have rights, but just as with any company, you don't have total rights. You can't do and say whatever you want to at FedEx and the hospital and anywhere else you work. There are ramifications for what you say or do. My brother talks about it all the time. He's in corporate America. He can't say and do things on social media because of his position in corporate America. Are those slave owners too? So I have a difficult time with that part. Has he burnt the bridge is the question.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is probably so, but I don't really think so. I think that he's back because I believe that any owner that takes the chance on him will gain so many fans, so much media attention. It will be, especially if he does well, it will be a Cinderella story. And that team will be noticed. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. So there's a risk, but there's also a great reward for someone that takes on Colin Kaepernick.
So why you say you think he burned bridges with the ownership?
Well, I mean, you call white people slave owners, they get real offended.
But if you go and watch, I don't know which episode it is. The way he lays it out there, you like, oh damn, there are similarities. You know, with the combine, and how he equated that to the auction blocks. It's like
I didn't say he was lying. I just
right. So,
but the problem is they do the same thing for the white players. So where's the slavery?
Well, because it's 85% one way versus the other.
I mean, but shithead, that's just because white boys can't jump. I mean,
but that ain't our problem. They can't jump.
I mean,
I wonder if slaves would be affected.
And if you compare this to corporate America doesn't do the same thing as what the NFL does, and how the NFL recognizes their talent, observe their talent, and
physicality. physicality.
Right. So corporate America doesn't do that. Corporate America looks at something totally different. It's more on your merit and what you know versus what the NFL does. But to say this man can't get back in the league, and you let all these other players back into the league, you let the white boy for a team in yellow and black, y'all let him back on there, and y'all hugged him.
I wonder if slaves would be offended by what he said.
I would think so.
Because they didn't walk off the auction block with $1 million checks.
They didn't get to go home at night and sleep in plush.
You know what I'm saying? Like I feel you, and Al, you hit it right on the head. I get the similarities, and it is a weird evaluation process. We're gonna take your shirt off and look at your chest and measure your. It is weird. I will admit that there's something very 1800 about it. But
they do it to everybody.
They do it to everybody.
There are some white players who opt out of doing that stuff, and they have no issue still getting drafted. So
there's some white players that opt out.
Yeah,
white and black opt out.
But it's more the white.